Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circus of Lives live stream, or that's what Jim would like to call it. And he has also, if you haven't been on my community page, I put up a post where I asked everyone whether they agree with Jim or not, where he says, "I am." I'm spreading hit pieces and lies on him, and I should be in prison, and I'm a vile person. So the response is, uh, I think one person, probably Nepi, said that it checks out. I often terrorize people to hide my depravity. And then next is, no, Edith and Damon are too scared. They make this up fantasies to sleep at night. And then NA, because Jim was probably crying when he wrote this, so it doesn't apply. And then we got a lot of people saying, "Hey, wait, how do I get in on that Circus of Lies live stream?" So I hope you guys are on the Circus of Lies live stream. I've put in the other people on the stage. We have John Clark, Jeebus, Ook, and Blarg. Hey guys.
Evening.
G'day.
Oh,
Hello.
And
Welcome
I'll
back,
just
my
say,
friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside.
and I'll just let everyone know up front, DK will not be joining us. I hope you guys are sitting down when I said that.
This is my surprise face.
All right. So hopefully we'll still have some stuff to talk about. I did want to review the reason why I thought, where I said he was going to show up. And that's because, he had responded in last week's live stream, and he started kind of piping in about how twiggered I am, which is kind of funny because he does seem very twiggered by my posts. But he started kind of saying these stuff, and so I told him that he's agreeing to, or he agrees to show up because he has all these things to say about me. So I said, hey, you can come on my live stream and you can say these things to my face. And so I kept on saying, hey, you're going to be on the show. You're going to be on the show. And he, purposely doesn't like actually respond and say, no, he's not going to show. He just kind of keeps it quiet. He doesn't actually say, because, if he said it right away, then, we would know, and not that we don't know, that he's a coward. So, this is where he said, hey, you're terrified of me. You make videos about me that I never watch, obsessing over me, hoping I'll throw some shade for your validation. I don't know how throwing shade makes it valid. So this is where I kept on saying, I hope you don't punk out this Saturday. And he did punk out. And of course, we will make sure that to continue to remind him that he punked out. So that was a source where the reason why I put the title for this week's live stream as DK has said that he will wipe the floor with me. Let's see if he shows up. And he didn't. So that's the background for anyone else who's on the live stream, on the live chat. And I think I had posted it elsewhere. If anyone wants to come on, just put it in the comments and I'll give you the link to join the stage. So that being said, I'll turn it over to the rest of the people on the stage. Any comments from you guys?
I mean, I really thought that DK would show. I mean, his consistency and bravery and fortitude is well established far and wide. I'm genuinely shocked, I say.
Yeah. So the other one is I didn't post this that long ago, so there aren't that many votes. But will DK have the courage and integrity to show up to my live stream? And a quarter said, of course, DK is synonymous with integrity and courage. And a quarter said, "Nah, man, have you read any of his posts? He's too busy running." And then half the people said, "He's too much of a coward, but I'll still listen in." So I hope there are people listening in on this.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how quickly these paper tigers just fold like a map every time they get even remotely challenged and genuinely held to the standard of put up or shut up. It's amazing.
QC, do you have the comments where Damonkey says he's Australian?
Oh, I was thinking of pulling that up, and I was kind of in the middle of doing that before the show started. I'll try to find it.
Yeah, that'd be
Actually, it should be
great.
pretty easy for me to find because I actually reproduced or copied and pasted that comment. So let's see if I can find it.
I haven't been around the last week because I've severe sinus infection, so I'm going to keep the thing muted most of the time because what's coming out of me you could hang wallpaper with. So I'll shut up.
Let's see, why can't I find it? I thought it should be easy to find, but I can't seem to find it. But what he said was that he's Australian, right? He's an Aussie, and I don't think any one of us believes that.
Oh, no, it's definitely a lie. His hours of business just don't match. They match the standard American hours of someone being present, and his language doesn't match either.
Yeah, his language doesn't match, but I mean,
doesn't match. There's for anyone who uses the British or UK English, we spell things differently. And
he does use British spelling though.
Not a lot though.
Sometimes he fluctuates back and forth, especially when he wants to try and do an intellectual flex.
Yeah, I never use American spelling, mainly because the brothers used to belt us if we did. So yeah, you can beat things into people and it stays.
So maybe you guys can kind of educate me on this. But when I did a quick look up, my understanding was that UK and Australian spelling is similar, but Australia uses more American spelling than UK.
It's become more accepted to use it.
I see.
Say if you went to school 30 odd years ago, no, it wasn't. Even in some of the public schools, I know a lot of teachers got very upset about American spelling. But yeah, I mean, even if we and I'm going back a bit further than that, but if we used American spelling accidentally in any of our schoolwork, it was the strap. No ifs, buts, or maybes. It was really strange. But American spelling has become acceptable in Australia. You're not marked against it. I've even seen some people spelling tire without the Y. Well,
and it's not. It's not just the spelling either. Like, yeah, sure, the spelling. The dead giveaway is the spelling of a lot of things with a Z instead of an S. That we see, like euthanasia, for example, we spell it with an S. I think you guys will spell it with a Z. All those style of words usually have a Z for American spelling and an S for an Australian/British spelling. But it's not just the spelling; it's also the phraseology, the way in which we approach the language is subtly different, and it's pretty hard to put your finger down on exactly where that is sort of occurring. But it does come up as something that we spot. And yeah, no, I'd be really gobsmacked if he's an Australian. It just doesn't come across that way. He comes across exactly like a deeply indoctrinated evangelical, and that's not really a common thing in Australia either.
In the past, he has used, sometimes the UK spelling. So like realize was one of them where he uses an S rather than Z. And so there have been few cases, but I didn't really pay attention too much. But now that he claims he's Australian, it might be good to just keep an eye on it, because there are definitely, my understanding is that there are words where in Australia you might, like Ook was saying, maybe not as much in the past, but now the American spelling is more accepted, whereas in the UK presumably they'll keep the UK spelling. So those are things that we probably could or someone to notice now that now that we know what to look for.
Well, the reality is it's also completely irrelevant. It's just you can't believe anything the guy says. So and whether he is or not, like he could be the Dalai Lama for all I care. It doesn't change the fact that the substance of his speech is more important than the person delivering it.
Yep. But I have what he wrote posted. This is where I'm quoting him. So he said, "I am from Australia and white English-speaking married man with 3 children and a professional career, astutely well-read and educated in philosophy, jurisprudence, and science. And he reads 50 to 100 pages a day of philosophical literature." And he also uses, like, he keeps on using slow boy, and that didn't really seem Australian to me. But anyway, it reads as him just like trying very hard to appear, more authoritative, especially with the philosophy stuff where, it's clear that he doesn't know philosophy.
Yeah, it's like I was saying in the email that I sent you. This is all dominance play. This idea that he wants to make himself big and bold, so that way you're just intimidated by the size of his brain. And you're so smart. Okay, you read 100 pages a day. You clearly know what you're talking about, which is why you can't even define simple terms or put together a single cogent argument that isn't riddled with logical fallacies. But it's he and Neppy tie the dominance display of their intellect and how big and strong their mind is. It's all part of the identity that they present for themselves, and that's why they get triggered when you actually are able to pop that bubble even slightly.
Yeah. The other weird thing I found was, like, in that thread, he came off as so paranoid. I was just like really surprised. So the first question I asked to I was trying to suss out whether he really was from Australia or not. So I asked him, "Did you go to a government school or a Catholic school?" And then he started. He did this whole, help guys, come help QC. But he started going. He thought that I was trying to find personal details. I mean, like, how is him saying that he went to a Catholic or a government school going to dox him at all or reveal anything personal about him? But later on, he just goes on about so whether he thinks that I'm trying to get him to tell me his in real life school, what he attended. And then this is where he gets paranoid, that he was claiming that I was threatening him if I don't share more info. I mean, there's nothing that I said above that even indicated this. And the other kind of funny thing is, throughout this thread, there's like so many likes for his comments. On a channel, on my channel, where there's not very many people on it, right? So the only way he could get 10 likes that quickly is if he was using his alt to do that.
Uh-huh.
I just noticed something with the he mentions jurisprudence.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct me if I'm wrong, Blarg, but that's a Damien Cox line. We lost Blarg.
He's still on.
Oh, but yeah, the going on about jurisprudence, that's Damien Cox, the troll with the what is it?
Oh, you mean Jim?
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's weird. I can't really see any. He does use, when he spells colour, he does use the British or Australian way of spelling it, but there's way too many red in Word. If you put something in, it shows up if it's not on your dictionary, and his posts are full of red letter underlines. It's just strange the way he's coming on now. And I just thought that was strange, using the exact same. And there's only one other person that I've ever heard use that, and that was Jim. It's weird.
I mean, it's kind of a weird thing to say, right? Educated in jurisprudence.
I don't even understand how you could do that.
We don't usually say 5th grade either.
Yeah, and this whole thing of, as she must be obeyed, just walked past and said, we don't say 5th grade either.
You want a coffee?
It's just weird.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing is, like, for that 5th grade reading comprehension thing, there's kind of a history with it where, I got kind of sick of him misunderstanding or purposely misrepresenting what I'm saying. So, I was accusing him of having, not having a very good reading comprehension. And it's possible I said it as a 5th grade reading comprehension, and he's just kind of parroting it. Possibly. I'm not 100% sure.
That's common. To your question, Ook, about jurisprudence, I just searched my emails for that, and I have 3 hits in it. Actually, I get I get a hit off of you at one point as well, but I've got one off Daniel Cox and one off Rebel Sun for the term jurisprudence. And Rebel Sun gives me natural law as well, which was mentioned in the comments.
Yes, it was. I do recall that. All very interesting.
Yeah.
Just as a sidebar, I found something out today. There's a university in California that's a metaphysical university.
Oh, wow.
You can go there and get a degree.
It's not really there. Actually, I'm pretty sure Trump University was pretty well metaphysical.
Yeah.
The degrees she got weren't real.
I couldn't believe it. She must be obeyed, was scrolling through her phone and went, look at this. And it's the University of the Metaphysical. What the fuck?
Well, I mean, it's philosophy, right? They're saying they specialize in philosophy, no?
I don't know. I'm frightened to go on the website.
Yeah. The school's motto is, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. So yeah, DK was spinning out of control a lot this week. I'm wondering if somehow or another we managed to actually pluck a nerve. Like maybe we got a little closer to. He thinks that we got a little too close to who he actually is for his comfort. That's just sort of pure speculation on my part. But the lashing out, I'll come on your debate, and then backing out, and are you threatening me, and just all this stuff kind of seems like maybe we got under his skin more than usual.
Well, to be fair, he didn't specifically say, "Yeah, I'm going to get on your stream." He basically was saying, "Hey, I can, I'll wipe the floor with you, but he didn't specifically say, I'm going to get on your live stream and do that. It's just, their usual kind of bluster.
Yeah. Their Brobdingnagian pile of bluster and bluffing.
Yeah, and his claim that he was educated. I think one of the things that he had mentioned was that he was educated in science, or he has education in science. Yeah, because he listed it as educated. So this whole astutely well read, I thought that was just hilarious.
Yeah.
And educated in philosophy, jurisprudence, and science. So when he says he has any education in science, it completely doesn't make sense because of stuff like this, where he posts this thing about 99% of organism phenotypes cannot be accounted for by fully mapped genome. This so-called missing heritability problem, and this is so completely wrong.
Did you see his citation? And I put quotes around that, even though you can't see it. I asked for a citation, and he gave me Schrodinger from 1944, a physicist from before the even the shape of the DNA had been discovered, let alone modern genomics. And that's his citation for the missing heritability problem. You just go, yikes.
Do you know which thread he made that? I haven't seen that.
Hang on, I'll go find.
Yeah, it does make sense, since the missing heritability problem wasn't pointed out until I think it was 2000. Was it 2008? I think, and then it's resolved in 2010.
Yeah, it's the prove there is no God AXP throwback, where Donkey makes the 99% of an organism's phenotype cannot be accounted.
It's his
thread. It's his thread,
right?
Yeah.
So it's this thread.
Yes,
right?
He just annihilated me with Schrodinger. You just go, nice.
Well, to be fair, though, you're both annihilated and unannihilated simultaneously.
Right. Depending on whether you do the observation or not. So where is it? Oops.
Yeah, so it's down near the bottom.
Oh, yeah, right here. Oops. The new find thing within Edge is like sometimes very annoying, because it moves after you actually find it. Let me try it again. So it's this 1 hour ago.
Yeah, I just annihilated you. There it is. The paragraphs from Schrodinger's What is Life?
Wait, why do I keep missing it? Did I move past it?
I was just reading it.
Oh, maybe I'm just
off
seeing
your screen there. So go up a little bit further.
Oh, here it is. Oh, just like I annihilated you. So he must have said something earlier.
Yeah.
Or is this the first time he mentioned Schrodinger?
So I've gone and said 99% citation required, still, being that I've asked him before and the likes. And then he's responded with down What is Life, take the thing, where's that citation?
Where's the citation? And he says, oh, what is life? Okay.
Yeah, what is life?
Predicted missing heritability problem would happen in his book, What is Life? Which doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and Schrodinger was a physicist.
Yeah.
Not a biologist. And he came from an era when modern genomics didn't exist either. So, not exactly a... Schrodinger's a genius. There is absolutely no doubt about that. He's an intellectual giant. But just because you're smart doesn't make you an expert in a different field. And it's, what are we, 2024? That's an 80-year-old book. In a world where genomics is a 21st century science, effectively.
Well, and also the missing heritability problem is very specific about the matchup of the data from twin study with target gene specific heritability predictions. So that wouldn't have even been in consideration for Schrodinger. So I think he's probably saying. I think Schrodinger may have said something about like mutations in DNA, and may have said. Let's see. He elaborates on the role of mutations play in the biological evolution. I hate this. Okay, here it is. So let me see if I don't know if you guys can see this.
So I do have a question about. Has anybody gotten an answer out of DK on why he's even bringing this up in the first place?
Oh, it's just ridiculous. The funny thing is, now that we start poking at this behavior, and that question from Ook earlier, maybe I was wrong, and it's DK who is Daniel Cox and not Jimbo, because Daniel Cox was really. There was a really long discussion I had with him in some of his early alts about him learning physics as an apprentice to a fellow by the name of D.F. Pollis. And these weird style of claims, like, educated in jurisprudence and science and stuff, they're the same stupid sort of claims that we get from that. So I don't know. I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong, but it does start make me second guess what I was fairly certain of.
No,
I do think it doesn't quite match up.
I had a look through. It's there's a similar phrasing and quotations from
this
Damien Cox. It's weird.
Ongoing.
Could they all be the same? Could all three be the same person?
Well, not impossible.
I've been missing putting up some of the comments, but what happened with Miranda? She got like a broken doorknob.
Yeah, I saw that
and got locked down.
Miranda, you are okay? Like, seriously? You're okay?
Hilarious.
That's.
I mean, I've done the old Volvo that I drive at the moment. It's central locking. There must be a break in one of the wires or one of the door solenoids are playing up, because if you open it too much, it'll automatically lock. And it's just a pain in the ass if you can't. Yeah, I'm lucky so far. I haven't locked my keys in, but I've had that thing, doorknobs come off, but never. Yeah.
Miranda says that she's good.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go back through and look at all the stuff again and come up with new hypotheses about which troll is who, because it's very
I also
similar.
went looking for the spelling COLOR with Donkey, and found a single post where he spells it that way 3 times in a row in 2 sentences.
Yeah, so he
uses the American spelling 3 times in a row in 2 sentences. That could be an indication of lack of education, which it's not an uncommon spelling in Australia for people who, didn't do so well at school. But I think there's enough evidence that that Donkey's not. While he's a moron, he's not an idiot. Yeah. There's some brains under that indoctrinated skull of his.
it's like his claims about the Dead Sea Scrolls proving Christianity. I mean, anyone who's read them knows that all they prove is there was a Jewish sect and they believed in this. Nothing to do with Christianity at all. It's rather strange. But
Yeah,
yeah,
with him, it doesn't seem to be an issue of education per se in terms of just like, let's say, specific knowledge, but it's that, you know, logic, that illogic that he displays, where the things he says just doesn't make logical sense. So I just quickly looked up, you know, what this was about. So, you know, within this book, with Schrodinger is talking about, you know, mutations in biological evolution, and he's actually talking about potential carriers of hereditary information, because they didn't know at the time that it was the DNA that was the, you know, the carrier. Because I think the whole DNA is, at least the double strand wasn't found until like 1955, and this was like in the 1940s or something. So there's definitely time difference there, and what Schrodinger is talking about here has nothing to do with the heritability problem. I mean, this is at a very fundamental level of, you know, how is hereditary information even transmitted?
Yes, so not relevant, not even in the slightest. And it also suggests that he didn't bother just like every other source he ever quotes. His actual reading of it is nothing more ever than a skim of small bits. So chunks are taken. Essentially, it really feels like he just skims through, finds something that he can just snip out that seems like it supports his way of thinking, doesn't bother to read any of the supporting materials or any of the surrounding bits or anything deeper, and then just starts, you know, that's his buzzword for the day, is that particular one. I'm surprised he doesn't go digging into On the Origin of Species, because Darwin's technique, the way in which Darwin writes, he puts out those questions all the time that are super easy to take out of context, and then goes and demonstrates why that question's wrong. So if only we had this, we'd know more. We do have this.
Yeah.
Like the fossils,
that's his
right?
style all throughout. That's how he writes. And all the time you get Christian apologists pointing to On the Origin of Species, saying Darwin knew that this was a problem. Here he is talking about it, ignoring the very next sentence.
Yeah. See, that actually speaks to the theory that I've had for a while now. I think I've mentioned it to all of you, which is that I honestly think that while I don't know whether or not DK is a theist at heart, he's not there to engage on any honest level. I think he is there just to be a troll. He's just there to stir things up for the sake of stirring them up. That's
but
why
I feel like he thinks that he's right.
I think that, again,
Both can be true.
Yeah, those are not mutually exclusive premise. Those are not premises. Mine is just that he does. Blarg just got my joke. So I think he, you know, I'm willing to accept at face value, for the sake of argument, that he's a theist, that he's coming from a theological position, and maybe even a Christian one. But I think just to him, the entertainment value of, you know, owning the atheists by getting them to, you know, just scramble around every time he posts. I think that, you know, there's more. I think there's more of that than there is an actual desire to make a point. In sort of a bizarre sideways compliment, Nebby believes what he's typing. I think to a certain extent, even Jim's Edith, I think, believes what they're typing. But DK, I've always just ideologically, they keep bouncing around from different core positions. So there's no ideological thread through everything that they posted. remember that about a year and a half ago, DK was claiming that he was a Gnostic. But
Yeah.
then when he got called out on that, he dropped that entirely and moved on to a completely different, style of argumentation for the sole purpose of just looking like he's the big strong boy and looking like he's the smartest person in the room, and just coming up with different ways and different excuses for calling everybody that disagrees with him dumb. I mean, does anybody think that I'm completely off base here?
No, I mean, he tries very hard not to specifically mention Christianity, right? He tries to be kind of like be more philosophical, so to speak, on what he says.
Well,
Yeah.
Claiming that he was a Gnostic some time ago, that's where I kind of hang my hat as far as where he probably is coming from, theologically speaking. But no, I agree that he deliberately tries to be as liquid as possible in terms of actually stating a position. When he was bringing up the 99% issue earlier, I had to ask him a half a dozen times, "What's your point?" Like, all right, cool. Why are you even mentioning this? And he would never actually give an answer as to why he's bringing it up. So
There's
it's
no
not
point.
about making a point for him. It's about being. It's about being. He's another pizza cutter. He wants to be all edge and no point. He wants to just rile everybody up.
Yeah, it's all about just winning any argument. So he comes across something, you think, ooh, that'll be hard to argue with. And then he'll just spam that for a few days with his buzzword bingo maneuver, and then he'll get sick of that and he'll have read something else. He'll have Hegel, and you go, oh my God, Hegel said something. Quote that. You can't beat that. And then that gets beaten up for a little while, and then he flips on to something else. Bzzzt, bzzzt, off he goes.
I thought he was just trying to kind of question science, which is kind of ironic because he keeps on calling everyone science denier. I
Right.
think he's trying to say, hey, science is wrong or can be wrong.
No, but he's also simultaneously trying to say science is right, but you don't know science.
Right,
The irony being that some of us actually went to university and got degrees with the word science in them, as opposed to a person who claimed, if it is Daniel Cox, it claimed that he did a 12-year apprentice as a physicist. And you go, well, that's not how that works. Not since the 18th century.
Sorry, apprenticeship.
I shit you not.
I'll have to go. My God.
Hang on, I'll find it.
I think Australia is one of the few countries left that still has apprenticeships, and I've never seen.
Doesn't Europe have apprenticeships? Or
Some countries, yeah. It's sort of like an outdated concept now. It's like you can become a tire technician, a air conditioner technician, a audio technician in cars, like a car audio technician. They've broken it all up. Brake technician. It's they've just broken, instead of being a mechanic, now you can all be these other things.
I guess the other thing is in Europe, there's a lot more or specific vocational training, right? You can take the vocational path.
Yeah. I don't know what it's like now. It's in Australian schools. Oh, and it's in Australia, it's either state or private. That's how we call our schools. We do have some private secular schools, but most of them are one religion or another. And they usually have much higher university scores than public schools.
Yeah, I went in grade 12. So I went to public schools for the first 11 years of my schooling, and got access to a Catholic school for grade 12, which ended up ranking second in the state for schools in the year I was in it. So, and it was a relatively inexpensive school too, as far as private schools go. So yeah, I can go along to a Catholic school. They were actually quite good. They were even fairly easy going with the fact that I was an atheist and didn't pretend I was otherwise, which is not my understanding of how things work in Yankee Land.
Yeah, I mean,
no, that is not.
I had, well, for me, I had a, you know, being the fact that my second cousin was a pope at the time and gave me all free education, including a own private tutor, and I still turned out an atheist, and they didn't care. They cared more about your grades and how good you were on the cricket or rugby field. That was it. Yeah, we had.
By the way, Sunday is saying that in UK there's more apprenticeships now than before.
Oh, cool. That's good. Good to know. But yeah, the religious schools in Blarg or my time didn't give a shit about what religion you were. It was more, how well are you doing scholastically and sports? That was it.
I'm not sure, actually, now that I think of it, I'm not even certain it was legal to deny a person access to a religious school on the basis of their religion at the time. That may well not have been legal.
Correct. Yep, that was correct.
Yeah.
Discrimination.
Yeah, which definitely won't be the case in pretty well anywhere in America, right, that I can think of either.
Mm.
So it feels like we're in agreement that DK's just full of shit. He's not Aussie.
Yeah, I don't think he is. I mean, there's a small chance that it is, but yeah, I can't. I would say maybe 5% chance. But I think it's 0% chance that the whole thing that he said is 100% correct.
Oh yeah, no. His speech pattern, his argumentation style, his propensity towards just basic logical fallacies. There's nothing about. He might have had a basic, maybe even self-taught education on philosophy and argumentation, but his style might be from a cult or from a vehement religious sect, but honestly, just he's not educated. All of his claims of being a big brain boy is just bunk. Like it's just so tiresome. I deal with argument patterns and stuff, things like that is part of my job, and it's such just basic day one garbage. Like it's just never. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a ranting tangent. I apologize.
I think he might be. I think he's educated, but that rare quality that you get quite a lot, unfortunately, is an educated idiot.
Yeah. Well, so here's why I'm going to push back on that slightly. He might be self-educated to a certain extent because his propensity towards trying to pass off articles without citing them. So he was pulling things directly from Wikipedia, just whole cloth, whole paragraphs, whole pages, and not citing them. That's somebody who may have been homeschooled and thought that they could get away with it. That's not somebody who went through a rigorous academic process. His ability to fall into some of the logical traps that I set for him if he's studying jurisprudence, if he's studying argument, these are things that a first-year law student in any country, in any school, is going to see coming a mile away. So my suspicion is that he was homeschooled and was never challenged, was never given a reason to grow. But he might be a part of a religious sect or a community that is rather fundamentalist and close knit. So he might have some renown or clout potentially, but he comes on here just to get his jollies off on making everybody angry. But because he can't really form, he's not nearly as good as he thinks he is, but his identity is wrapped up in it. So that's why he keeps coming back, because he wants the validation of being the smartest person in the room and the double pleasure of getting the atheists angry.
Yeah,
that's the impression that I've gotten.
I put it down to people like that. It's some sort of strange sexual fetish, or it's
it's shame fetish.
Yeah, it's a fetish. Yeah.
No, and Jim Edith, I'm absolutely convinced. I'm not being flippant when I say that about Jim specifically. Jim specifically, I'm convinced has a shame fetish.
Too bloody right.
Yeah. No, 100%. I'm convinced of that. That's why that's part of the reason why they want us to smack them down. They want us to call them names. That's why whenever I say, you're a lying, hypocritical coward, he's like, you can't prove any kind of a lie out of me, just so that I can post, for the 39th, 40th time, the epic tome that is his list of lies and failed claims. It's so that he can feel that shame, so that he can feel that, embarrassment. He gets off on it.
Yeah, he's having a wank. Yeah. What was I going to ask people, because I haven't been around a lot? That Joey Trans whatever, and what
APOT?
Yeah, APOT. What's these profiles up to now? Is anyone?
I just guessed it's 100.
I had 25.
No, wasn't he like previously the 50 alts? So you kind of start at 50, right?
I'm starting from like when he started in June. Yeah. Oh, sorry, July, when he started this new lot in July. Trying to keep a record, but well, I'll go back and find it anyway. Not to worry.
Well, before, when he was APOT, he was also the 50 alt guy, right?
As far as I know, yes. Yes. But it's still strange. He's also the guy who made all the, he's Kevin, 10 Minute Underwater, with making all the fake profiles, because he got into that. He did Neil's, made a fake profile of that, and he's warned several other people who have had a go at him. AJ, I think he's even had a go at you, Q, about making a new profile with using your names.
If
I
he
didn't
is
notice.
Kevin, for those who haven't familiarized themselves with 10 Minutes Underwater Kevin, you absolutely have to, because that is one of the most brutal takedowns Matt Dillahunty ever did. It was absolutely glorious, and wow, was he put out. For months, he was just losing his shit completely. It was brilliant.
Even, I'd say that was just brilliant, and I rank Shannon Q's debate with Darth Dawkins along that same level as just destroying and totally. They ended up in a ball crying. But yeah, Underwater Kevin. I'll try and find that one.
Yeah, a couple of years ago now, 2 years. But yeah, 10 Minutes Underwater. And Kevin from Oregon. Yeah. and the irony, if it is Kevin, he's a poor, sad little man. As I think I've mentioned previously, he didn't take a whole lot of tracking down, and found out he's a 50-something-year-old gay man who took a solemn vow of celibacy back in the 80s. He should have just joined the priesthood and not and tried to do something in that space if he was going to go down that path.
Oh, did anyone else catch the Pope's comment, the homophobic slur that he used?
Is it the F word that he used?
No, it's actually an Italian word.
Oh, right, yeah.
And even native Italian speakers don't use that word. It's like using the N word or
wow.
Yeah, it's that horrible in Italian culture that
So he went to the back of the vaults to come up with this insult.
Oh, yeah. And it was, I sort of want to give him, I don't know, I'm slightly sympathetic because, he's not a native Italian speaker, so he mightn't have known the real context. But, yeah, just some of the stuff that's coming out of the Vatican.
Yeah, but there's a very specific set of circumstances where you would hear derogatory terms that offensive.
Yeah. And I can't even begin to pronounce it, not with the sinus infection, but going along with all the other stuff that is said about gays and transgender.
There are some insults that culturally maybe you grew up around just a less enlightened group of people. Maybe they use them. I'm not saying it's okay or it's acceptable, but there's a certain level of derogatory term that you might still encounter, especially in the South in the United States. But you hear a specific series of insults, and it's like, no, you were taught that one, and you went to that one to express yourself. You don't casually drop that kind of thing.
I'll try it. Fragile. No, I got it wrong.
The word he said means faggot.
The word he said, basically means faggot, which is not. Yeah, you don't use that in Italian things. Continuing on,
Miranda has an excellent point, which is regardless, he was clearly looking for a terrible thing to call someone.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it was accidental or if it was casual. So no, you made a choice, dude.
Yeah, and he's made several other choices that lead me to believe that he's like all the new popes. They're bigoted assholes.
Yeah.
And hypocrites. Going on to your point, John, there are some language that cultures just don't use, or less educated people. It's like it's the same thing like groomers and pedophilia. I mean, to me, if you just don't go there. And
I love my grandfather a great deal, but I'm going to unfortunately have to use him as sort of a negative example here. There was a specific way that he would refer to members of the African American community. Now, I could sit here and tell you all day long why I can 100% say that he didn't mean it in a hateful way, because culturally he grew up in the deep South in the 20s and 30s. So it was a word. So to him, it was just a word. Doesn't excuse it. Doesn't mean that it isn't, that's the kind of thing that it's possible for a person to have just heard something so often that it has no meaning to them. But if you use specific but if you wanted to really be hateful and terrible, then yes, these are the words that people are going to use, and the Pope used it specifically because he knows it's hateful, and he thought that he was in a safe room.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. They're hypocrites.
I would push back a little bit on it, because the use of that type of terminology, like I've got an uncle, he's gone now about 8 years, that I was quite close to, and the guy he's an excellent bloke, and I spent a lot of time with him and that family over the years. But he was really fond of the N-word, and it was never done in a nasty. Exactly the same as you're saying. It was never done in a nasty way. He could use it in a sentence which just boggles my mind about how his mate, the little N, was doing something, and then him and this other guy he was talking about something that they were up to, his mate, the little N, and you're just going, just mind blown. But the reality is that those words are deliberately part of the culture to separate the two groups. They are deliberately belittling.
Yes.
And they know it's deliberately belittling, but they think of the people in that terms. They are smaller people. They're less human than I am, for example, is the mindset. And look, from his location, he comes from far north Queensland, where everything is running decades behind in terms of cultural advancement. Yeah. And the guy would be now roughly 90. So yeah, it's entirely expected. But this is how things were. But it wasn't innocent.
Yeah, and I mean the old joke of Queensland had the 80s in the 90s, but far north Queensland had the 80s in the 2000s. It's a strange mix, but it's also like, can you imagine if we went to America, Blarg, and we said something like, not bad for a white fella or a black fella? We'd be definitely thrown out. And something from, I imagine, your childhood and mine is the bloody abos.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I never used it, but
just casual racism was just
was normal.
It was just casual, yeah. And the irony in a lot of cases for myself, and you look back, you don't even see yourself doing it, but you can look back and cringe a bit at the language. I went to a school where the majority of people in my school were Aboriginal, so for the longest piece of my education, they were around about 2/3 Aboriginal to 1/3 non-Aboriginal students, which meant actually when I left the area, people thought I had an accent. I did. It was an Aboriginal accent that I'd sort of picked up parts of from all the time around it. And
you bugger! I almost spilled my drink. Yeah,
all my mates were like my closest friends were like a proportional mix of the ethnic group of that school. But that didn't change the way in which I sort of thought. Those people could have been my best mates, but simultaneously I was a product of that era and place. So casual racism was inherently just how things were. And
I was going to when I came back today and got on, I was going to say, I had a really bad wog. No, I better not use that, because wog is an Australian term for any Mediterranean person, immigrant sort of thing.
And also the flu.
The flu, yeah.
I have a question for you guys. In one of the in that one thread where we were talking about DK's background, so John Clark had said, that his spelling and speaking pattern doesn't appear to be consistent with the native Australian, and DK kind of grabbed that as, native Australian. You mean like indigenous? So
I
Blarg,
caught that.
okay, but Blarg, you used the term Aboriginal. So between Aboriginal and native Australian, is there some kind of connotations?
No, it's a
Politically
modification
correct.
of the phrasing over
Yeah.
time. So in the past, we used to have all the casual racism. Old school used to be called Aborigines. Was the standard term for the group. We also used to, and it's fairly akin to the way in which it was used in America to refer to people of being half caste or quarter caste. And make even more disparaging comments about how that mixture works. But yeah, they were Aborigines, and then we started sort of moved over to the term Aboriginal. Now we tend to prefer Indigenous Australians as a more PC sort of a term. Curiously, there's also a slightly odd thing that's happened. So there's a term Murri, and we used to also refer to Aboriginal people back in my childhood as Murris. But in New South Wales, that's actually an accepted term. Is my understanding? It's an accepted term because that's the terminology that they use for themselves. We picked it up and then started using it discriminatorily, and then but they've sort of taken that back a little bit, and that is a correct term for that for some of those tribal groups.
Yeah, there was a association of about 8 or maybe a dozen clans that were the Murris. That's
yeah,
you're correct there. It's just weird. Yeah, Aboriginal is how you say it nowadays.
Well, what about native
Blackfella.
Australian? Does that have any kind of negative connotation?
that doesn't really get used.
That doesn't work. Yeah, it isn't used.
Okay.
Isn't used. It's either Indigenous.
Sometimes First Nations now gets used as well.
First Nations is inclusive with the Torres Strait Islanders and Islanders.
Yeah.
Especially up in Queensland, we have a lot of islands, and the Aboriginal, which is mainland, and the Islander cultures traded. So they put it all in because of the land rights, native title. They've all grouped together. Mainland Aboriginals and Torres Strait and Islander communities are all part of the First Nations now. I just, you got to taper your language to, you can't use terms that we did when we were kids. It's like retarded. I stopped using that about 20 years ago. Your language changes.
There is a fun little story akin to that if I just go off on a little tangent, if you'll sort of grant me, is the term dumb for someone who is of low intelligence, but also synonymous with the term meaning someone who can't speak.
Right.
That's an interesting one because that used to be synonymous because it was genuinely true. People who were born deaf, profoundly deaf at birth, back before sign language had been invented, didn't grow up with a language. They had no language, and apparently, without learning a language, you lose the ability to talk inside your own head, and you lose the ability to train your brain. And people without language are profoundly intellectually handicapped. As soon as we started teaching them sign language, the people who are born deaf have basically the same intelligence as anyone else. But at the time, they were profoundly intellectually handicapped. which I thought was just a really strange story that says a little bit about the way our brains work.
Yeah. Language development is definitely a big part of sort of human intelligence. Oh, by the way, Sunday posted something about what DK said. Apparently, Blarg, DK has some dirt on you. I wonder what that
Good luck
is.
with that. It'll just be the same standard stuff, claiming that I'm supportive of child grape.
Oh.
You know, the standard one. That'll be it.
I mean, that is so ironic because if he does have 3 kids, he said that children are property of the parents. So, the parents can pretty much do anything to the kids. And
Yeah, there wouldn't be anything wrong
DK's
with that.
point of view, from DK's point of view, it's moral. I mean, that seems a lot worse.
Yes,
it's just further evidence that he's talking without thinking. He's just trying to say something to get a rile out.
Well, he doesn't think that that's bad, to say that, parents own the children.
For Miranda, no, if you want to look at a typical Aussie, look up Sir Les Patterson and Dame Edna.
Yeah, we actually talked about Dame Edna.
Yeah. They're fun characters.
They're fun characters. He's Les Patterson Saves the World. Great movie. But he's an arsehole. Barry Humphries. No buts or maybes. He's just an arsehole.
Oh, my God. Sunday.
I know.
Oh, good grief, dude. That's...
That is pretty rough.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You win the internet now.
Okay. I know when I've got a better jokester in the room. I'm not going to whine about it.
Yeah, that was. By the way, here's another thing that DK does with that whole missing heritability thing. And this kind of reflects how he sort of misrepresents people. So he's, kind of making it seem like I'm denying that there is such thing as a missing heritability, right? So he says, you have no explanation or refutation for missing heritability. It's just, it just doesn't make sense. And then later he says
That's gibberish.
Yeah. I mean, considering what I've posted, it doesn't make sense. But later on, he says to, I think, Quentin D, to provide a peer-reviewed paper demonstrating that he is incorrect. So, I mean, that really is, kind of flipping the burden of proof on this. It's like, oh, no, you need to provide, you need to provide research to say, what I'm saying is wrong, as if there are a bunch of scientists, waiting around for DK to say something stupid so that they can do a research to refute it.
Yeah. And also, he's there demanding a peer-reviewed paper. When asked for the same, he produces an 80-year-old book by a non-biologist. Yeah. Irony.
Yeah, just like when he was going on about the whole Goethe and his perfect morphology. And when asked to provide any research, he's providing things that are like hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
And that's another straight.
Tell him to come up with something that's anything within the last 50 years that's peer reviewed, and he just absolutely loses his mind.
And that's exactly like Jim Cassowary does. It's a dinosaur. None of his books go past the 1800s, I think. The stuff that he's dribbled on about. Hang on, that was another thing that Damien Cox did. Oh, the plot thickens.
Ironically, I think the most recent citations that any of these theists provided came from Diva, when he provided at least the report, the UK report on the trans stuff.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
No, the cast report was that wasn't Diva. It was Hugh.
Hugh.
Oh, Hugh. Okay, all right.
Yeah, Diva shall forever be known as the King James is not a Protestant Bible.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was
and
Hugh
I-
that was going on about the Clark paper or whatever it was. Sorry, not the British.
The CAS.
Yeah, CAS.
I wonder, like, it's kind of interesting, you know, those guys don't seem to actually even like try to come on the live stream. And you know, Flojo, he's like, I have no idea why, if he's so keen on having the debate, why he's not coming on here and saying, hey, let me talk to John.
Yeah. Well, I gave you I've been very vocal with my theory as to what it is he's trying to do. That it's an alpha display. His whole self identity is around the idea of being the alpha male. He wants to control the narrative. He wants to control the situation. And when called out as being a coward and called out as being obsessed with guys calling him, that's when he tried to flip it back on us and saying, "Oh, you're the one who's scared. You're the one who's obsessed." He's like I said to him. And you had this experience of QC. He just wants to ramble. He just wants to talk. He is not interested in hearing what anybody else has to say. That's and that's why when you push back even just a little bit, it rattles him. And that's why my tactic and my pattern with him in the comments section is to keep him accountable for his cowardice and for his wanting to try and be dominant, even though he has zero credibility. And he's trying to he wants his ego to cash checks that just are invalid. He's got no argument. He's got no standing, and he knows it. So he's trying to maintain control over the only thing that he has left, which is how he interacts with people. But since he can't even get that done, he blasts his Bible passages, and sometimes you can get him to respond, and sometimes you can't. But that's his last little quarter of pathetic power.
I view Flojo as basically the guy who walks into the bar and is loud, brash, and wants to prove he's a man, and next minute he's getting his head bounced off the bar.
Yeah.
By posing, all the peacocking that he does, and someone just walks up and smacks him without so much as a by your leave. But yeah, he's I think he's just a bully. Yeah. And that's all he's ever done his whole life is bully people.
We see that actually quite often, I think, in the behaviour of the trolls is this thing, when they were at school, they were the top of the mountain. They were the guys at the school, and then they graduated school and discovered that being good at calling people names is not great for getting a well-paid job in the real world. So the people they were picking on end up as their bosses and take control over them, and they do not like it. I think it's the reason why Trump has done so well as a bully messiah, because it's those people who flock to him in droves.
And it's interesting, he actually bullies his own supporters too, or
yeah. Yes, he said that recently. I don't care about you, I just want your vote.
Oh, right,
Yes.
right. Las Vegas.
Yeah. You go, that's a great thing to say to your supporters.
Well, now, in all fairness, we can't rag on the man for constantly lying and then rag on him for when he tells the truth.
Well, yeah. Weirdly, he tells the truth more often than people think. Because wherever he's saying something appalling or horrific, that's almost certainly going to be the truth.
Yeah, no. When people show you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
He
only be a dictator on day one. Then you just go, no dictator ever has handed back power after they've taken it.
Good grief. So yeah, Flojo is just your classic playground bully, and he wants to try and still keep things under control, and he knows that he can't. That's why he's bragging, he's brash, and he's just a pathetic little man who cannot, for whatever reason, get past the glory days of the last time that he was able to be king of the mountain.
Hey, John, did you see him giving you grief about using a time zone as an excuse?
Right.
Wait, what?
And yeah, you didn't turn up for something because the time zone is an excuse. So anyhow, I asked him.
I remember that. Yeah.
Would he turn up? If I put on a something at 5 p.m. my time, which is a great time for me, would you be there? And unsurprisingly, I did choose that for the specific reason it's 3 a.m. Where Flojo lives. And I've seen him on at 4:45 and go, I'm here now, you're here now, we could do it now. And I go, nope. Said 5 o'clock. And unsurprisingly, he's never been around. Weird. And but he won't even give an excuse for why he didn't show up. Because of course his excuse is time zones suck. The fact
he does work. He does work third shift, so he might actually be up around that time.
Yeah, but the reality is time zones are a real thing and they suck.
Yeah.
It's just impossible to get a time that is useful for America, Australia, and England. You can't. There is no time. There's no time. That will be the case.
And just in general, these guys are not very charitable when you make a point, right?
Oh yeah, no. And again, it's because it's morality for thee, but not for me. They exist on this idea of, and Neppy does this constantly, where he'll cry foul anytime that somebody calls him a name on any level. Yet he'll continue to go on about Lost and Clueless and Son and Pathetic, and like he'll prattle off an insult at a moment's notice. He's fine with calling Flojo is fine with calling people cowards, but when I call him a coward, I've done something horrible. So it's if it weren't for double standards, they wouldn't have any standards at all.
Well, it's like when Jim's every once in a while will say, when you make a personal attack, you've conceded the point or something like that.
Oh yeah, that gobbledygook. And then you point out to him, dude, all you do is personal attacks. Well, we're at war, son. The rules are okay. Shut up. You got called out on your own. You got foisted on your own petard. So the latest thing is he's trying to say there's no such thing as burden of proof. You either have a good argument or you don't. So I've started calling him a purple space penguin. And since all purple space penguins lie about what they know and are capable of being logical, therefore he must be a purple space penguin because he lies about everything that he knows and he can't possibly be logical. Therefore, mine is the superior argument because it has no holes in it. He hasn't responded yet. It's using his standard against him.
It's
Speaking of trolls, do we see Francis Snowflake popped back up under that name?
Oh no, but I shall keep a lookout.
Yeah, someone, I can't remember who it was, cued me onto it, and I go, ooh, I'll go find that. But Frankie Snowflake. I'm not sure whether he is actually one of the other trolls that are around. I'm not certain. But there was a lovely exchange between himself and me some couple of years back, where he made a claim that evidence doesn't need to be verifiable to be good evidence. So I asked him for an example of this, and he said, well, he's Scottish. His grandmother, who was like turned 101 or something, told him how old she was and where she was born, and that's good evidence. He didn't need anything more than that, except for the and I'm like, well, how do you know? He goes, well, he went and had a look at the Scottish birth record. Well, I looked online and discovered that all Scottish birth records are available online, and he admitted that he'd gone and checked the Scottish birth records and checked his grandmother's birth records, which means two things: one, they were verifiable, and two, apparently her word wasn't good enough for her own grandson because he went and checked.
Yeah.
So talk about a double whammy of an own goal.
That was weird. Did anyone catch Kim? Oh, I've forgotten her.
Kimsland.
Yeah, Kimsland. She had another go at several people in one of the comments last week. Yeah, I don't know what's up with her. She's very, or if it's a her. Sometimes, yeah, she doesn't seem to like atheists, even though she is, or they are one. But
Well, she seems to have kind of her own idea of what a good atheist is.
yeah, it's very strange.
There are a couple of atheists who pop up who are far over on the right wing and get all bent out of shape, particularly about trans issues as well.
Yeah.
They get, they're exactly the same as the standard Christians when it comes to trans issues.
But there was one guy, I think he was saying something about the he him and how it's like a religion, I think that was like a recent one. I can't remember what he was
and
saying.
They always make that claim that science proves it's not true, and they love to point to Dawkins actually being a transphobic bigot, and saying that he's not interested in what they have to say. Biology says he's right, and you just go, well, clearly, yeah, it's the standard arrangement saying that, making the claim that people are saying that their sex has changed. And you go, no, nobody has ever said that. Only people making strawmans have said that.
There's somebody very close and personal in my life who is transitioning to male, and they said that even when they were a small child and people started to explain to them that they needed to cover their chest, even though there was no secondary characteristics even showing, that in their head they kept saying, but that's only for girls and I'm not a girl. And at the time that this was happening, that particular instance, they were like 7-8 years old. So like they've always known that they're not changing into male. They are becoming the person that they always were.
Yeah. Here's a strange corollary to that is last week I discovered one of my friends who I've had for years and years. She's a little hard to deal with, has some issues. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. At age 53, has finally woken up to the thing that all the rest of us were well aware of for as long as we've known her, that she isn't her, and has finally decided to transition to male. So, yeah, was unaware of, or if not unaware, unable to accept this in, at the time, her head, that this is what was going on. But it was obvious as hell. Only ever wore male clothes. That was it. The one time We saw him in a dress that was just weird. And whenever they're involved in any sort of dress-ups, their characters are always male. And everything about the person is male in behaviour. It just doesn't fit. The only thing perhaps is that they're attracted to men. And maybe that's why they were convinced they couldn't be a trans man, because that will now make him a gay trans man.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I knew a guy who transitioned late in life, but then from male to female, but then he would only have sex with trans people. I mean, nice enough guy, but
maybe
now weird.
Maybe it's just hard to deal with, being that you've got in your head a very clear image of who you're attracted to, and now that you've changed, it's hard to reconcile those two pieces together. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
I don't envy the life of a trans person. I mean,
to me, it's a terrible thing.
They're sort of like, it takes guts. I admire the fortitude to go out there and say fuck you to society.
Well, it's like in the past when, being homosexual is very, ostracized, and people are saying, hey, these people are choosing that way. It's like, why would you choose to, be part of a group that is, demonized all the time?
Yeah, where you might even be killed for being that person.
Right. Yeah.
Directly for being that. Yeah. Nobody chooses that life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just the whole, they're choosing to be that way. Just, it's like, it's so nonsensical.
Yeah. Just like go and turn the thing around and go, choose to be attracted to, so to the hetero person who's saying this, choose to be attracted to someone who's the same sex as you. Go on, choose it. And you can't do it. It's not a choice.
You can't help who or what you love or you're attracted to. So it's sort of like, all you can do is be yourself.
But of course, there's also all of those standard scare tactics that are being used in this argument as well. Because remember, all the arguments that come around with legalizing same-sex marriage, about first it's same-sex marriage, it's a slippery slope. Next thing you're marrying your pet.
Oh, that garbage.
That one. It's exactly the same argument, same style of argument that gets used with trans. Like someone who wants to be a trans woman is only there to get their jollies when they go into the public toilets and to attack your children in the public toilets. And you just go and...
That's ridiculous. They're
there to take a shit.
There's no trough. You don't pee into a trough in a female's toilet, even though sometimes it might look that way. But you go into a stall. They have doors. Who cares?
Yeah, so anyone looking under the door is going to be in trouble anyway.
Social movements, during the women's suffragette movement in the United States, the whole idea of think of the children.
It was exactly the same argument. You're right, John.
Yeah.
During civil rights, it gets brought up every single time that there's any kind of meaningful social evolution that takes place.
Yep. Look at the poor children. You go, don't worry about the poor children who are being discriminated against on the other side of your equation.
Yep. And the same easily debunked science was brought out, 120 years ago against against the suffragette movements, against the equal rights movement, against civil rights, gay rights, and now trans rights. It's the exact same playbook. And if you what's the quote from Dr. King? The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I think I'm misquoting, but that's one of the reasons why I take heart just knowing that the historical pattern of these arguments is that they ultimately fail, but that doesn't mean that we have to take our foot off the gas. It doesn't mean that we slow down even remotely to make sure that we keep these people accountable. It's the same thing as holding the trolls accountable in the comment section. When they say something dumb or inflammatory, call them out on it. You know that I have no problems picking a fight.
It's like I don't do it all the time, but if something's, I think, breaches the TOS, YouTube's, I'll report it and I'll tell that person.
Yep.
It's the same way that if I'm calling the cops on someone, I'm gonna, if they say, "Did you call it?" Yep, I did, because you're an asshole.
Now, for Ricky's post, where he's essentially like reposting the same thing over and over, I'm reporting that as spam. Are you guys doing that as well?
Spam or hate speech, depending on which one it is.
Yeah, a bit of both.
Yeah.
And
If it's
occasionally-
obviously hate, I'll do that. But
yeah, very occasionally I'll actually bump it up to promoting terrorism, where they're suggesting someone should die, and that happens occasionally.
Yeah, it's embedded in one of his longer copy and paste bullshits.
Oh,
Yeah.
that reminds me, the post that Apathetic Fish has been making, and I've told him if he wants your emails, because I think a couple of you guys volunteered that he could reach out to me, but I'm starting to kind of wonder about whether that's just kind of a tactic he's using or whether he's actually serious about it.
I would rather that my email get put out to somebody who is using a tactic. I would rather put my email out there and be wrong than withhold the possibility of being able to be a lifeline for somebody that actually needs it.
Yeah, I
that's
don't
right.
disagree with that. It's just, if he is using it as a tactic, I mean, that's a horrible thing to do.
Yeah,
because
it's bad taste if it's a tactic. I agree, but at the same time, let it run its course if it is, because if it's a tactic, they'll get bored and they'll go on to something else. But if it's genuine, let's just make sure that they know that they have avenues to reach out for help.
Yeah, it's just that I mean, if it is genuine, I certainly, like I told him, he should just get off of these comments if it's affecting him that much. But if it's a tactic, he's in a way kind of trivializing people who are doing this or actually feeling suicidal.
Yeah, I take conversations about ideation like that very seriously. So I'm willing to be the squishy-hearted liberal on that.
You have to be really careful because I believe that's against the TOS for YouTube to make those kind of announcements. The self-harming.
Yeah, they take that shit very seriously, YouTube.
Oh yeah, no, they absolutely do, and they should.
The first time he posted that, I did report it as suicide.
So
I keep trying to recommend that he takes a few days away, go get out in the real world, talk to some real people, and just like I can see how someone can get pretty beaten up by the trolls. It's a pretty easy place to get.
It's easy to get addicted to coming here,
Oh,
day
yeah.
on day.
Oh look, I mean I haven't done it lately, but there was every so often I'll take a week or two and just detach and go get some sunlight and fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if he's actually feeling that way, he definitely should get off.
So
It is time to end it. Not end the life, but end the
Yeah.
behavior that's getting him there.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely hope he's okay.
Yeah, I think one thing that we as a loose group should try and do is push the secular therapy and recovering from religion.
Oh yeah.
I try and do it, and sometimes YouTube will let the comment pass, and sometimes they won't. So it's sort of like,
do we know if they're calling from the United States or if they're calling from somewhere, or if they're posting from the United States?
Apathetic Fish? He's from Canada.
Yeah.
Canada.
Okay. Because Canada has a national crisis line, don't they?
Yeah, I think they're very much similar to the Australian health system, so they should have a national suicide hotline.
Yeah, I would. I mean, yes, absolutely. Make sure that they have my email if they ask for it. That's fine. But also, I think do we know if YouTube is going to bounce a comment that has that phone number on it?
Yeah, you can't put a phone number.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You can't put any phone number. Is there a way for us to code the number? Yeah. I mean, what if we coded the numbers so that a human reading it would be able to tell that it's a phone number, but just a scanning bot?
I mean, I think you just need to kind of put a description of what it is so that they can, search for it.
Yeah, it's easy to find.
Yeah.
Canada's suicide hotline is 988.
Yep.
So that should be an easy one. If you
Yeah.
wanted to.
Actually, that would be a helpful thing to do in Australia, to have a really simple number like that.
Yes, instead of all the bullshit rhymes you've got to go through. 13. The literacy hotline was 1300-366 or so. Oh, God.
Oh, jeez.
And that's going back 20 years.
6550506. Yeah.
That's it's Christ.
1300-666. Yeah. Yeah. If you play it enough times, it does. It grinds its way in there.
It's like the slip, slop, slap. That's our sun protection motto in Australia.
God, yeah.
Slip on a shirt, slap on a hat, and something else.
Slap on some
Slap on the
slap on
All right.
sunscreen.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So we're at end of time. Anyone have anything you guys want to close out with?
Yeah. Q, does this cost you anything? Running the live stream?
No, not at all.
Okay.
The tool I use, StreamYard, is they have the little watermark, but it's free to use.
Yeah, I just wanted to know because I mean, I'm enjoying this, and if it's money out of your pocket, I'd like to sort of.
Oh, someone was
maybe give you a
mentioning
little bit.
about that I'm trying to make money or get Patreon,
Oh, good.
patrons on it. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Like that, yeah. Okay.
Can we just give
But-
DK another 5 minutes?
He's right there. He's just got to finish up some paperwork.
Yeah.
Right here. He's got that last 2 pages he needs to read,
Yeah, that's
Make
right.
this 100. 100 for the day.
and then he's gonna come on here and just mop the floor with all of us.
That's right. But he's open to come here anytime, and not necessarily because I think we're going to have a good discussion, but at least we can kind of suss out the type of person that he is.
Oh, we've already sussed out the kind of person.
Well,
That's
all
our
right.
goal.
Blarg and I would definitely be able to tell whether he's an Aussie accent or not.
Yeah. Well, we'll see
right,
if he
mate.
shows up next week. But thanks everyone for showing up and having another interesting conversation. So I am going to close it out. Thanks everyone for being on, and I'll see you in the comments.